You think frozen foods are safe? Easy dinners, healthy shortcuts, guilt-free snacks? But for seniors, the freezer aisle can be a trap. Hidden sodium, bacteria, and chemicals lurk inside boxes that look wholesome. Today we're counting down 9 frozen foods you should never touch and revealing 2 that are actually healthy. One bad bite could cost you far more than convenience. Coming in at number 9, frozen burritos. Loaded with sodium, preservatives, and sometimes sitting for months before sale. You open the microwave, stab the foil, and hope for a hot, satisfying bite. What you get is a rubbery wrapper, a bland paste of beef and beans, and enough salt to make your mouth feel like a pretzel. Frozen burritos are engineered to survive long storage, not to deliver nutrition. That survival comes from sodium, preservatives, and starch fillers that bulk up weight while cutting real food value. Let's talk sodium. A single frozen burrito can contain half to nearly all of a healthy adult's recommended daily sodium limit. For seniors and people with high blood pressure, that's dangerous. Salt pumps up water retention and stresses the heart. One frozen dinner may set off a full day of extra meds or a doctor's call. Then there's the ingredient list. Open the box and you'll read words meant to preserve texture more than flavor. Hydrolyzed proteins, modified cornstarch, stabilizers, and sometimes natural flavors that hide MSG-like compounds. Sausage or beef in these burritos often come from processed mixes that include nitrates or nitrites to hold color. Those chemicals are linked to long-term health concerns when consumed frequently. Don't forget temperature risk. Frozen burritos are often thick at the center. Microwaves heat unevenly. The outer tortilla can reach a safe temperature while the meat center stays borderline. That's a real risk if fillers include poultry or mixed meats. Seniors, whose immune systems can be less forgiving, face higher odds of getting sick from partially heated proteins. If you still reach for burritos, scan labels like a detective. Look for lower sodium counts, simple ingredients, and clear protein sources. Even better, make a large batch at home and freeze single portions. You control the salt, the meat quality, and how well it reheats. Homemade also avoids long shelf times where flavors, fats, and textures degrade. Ever microwaved a burrito and hit a cold center? Describe the texture. Was it icy, gummy, or pleasantly hot? We want the worst offenders. Convenience shouldn't come at the cost of a shaky heart or a dodgy microwave center. Now at number 8, frozen breaded fish fillets. Often more filler than fish with unhealthy oils. The box promises crispy fillets and wild-caught taste. The reality is often a lump of batter and cheap filler with a thin shred of fish hiding under the coating. Manufacturers use breading and starch to stretch product weight. That saves them money and sells you the idea of a full fillet. Start with the fish content. Many budget frozen fillets list low percentages of actual fish or list white fish without species detail. In some products, the center is more processed paste than flaky fillet. That changes nutrition, lower omega-3s, and less real protein. If you're buying fish for heart benefits, this can be misleading. Oil is the next problem. Frozen breaded fillets are usually pre-fried before freezing. That locks in the oil and often uses cheaper vegetable oils that are high in omega-6 fats. When reheated, ovens or air fryers re-crisp the outside and reheat the fat inside. The result? A product that's effectively been fried twice, once industrially, once at home. Repeated frying raises the level of oxidized fats, the kind linked to inflammation. Sodium and additives show up again. To balance lost flavor from cheaper fish, producers load salt and flavor enhancers. Breading hides texture problems but adds carbohydrates and sodium. For seniors, high sodium plus processed oil is a bad combo. It ups blood pressure and metabolic strain while offering limited nutritional payoff. Breading also masks freshness. A small, fresh fillet has a delicate texture and clear aroma. A frozen, breaded product hides off notes and freezer burn until you bite. That's dangerous when texture or smell is the only early sign a product has declined. Have you ever bitten into what you thought was fish only to find more breading than flesh? Tell us where and what brand. We'll judge the ratio with you. A breaded fillet that's 80% batter is a shell game over your dinner plate. If most of the fish vanishes under breadcrumbs, you're paying for crunch, not nourishment. Next up at number 7 on the list. Frozen meat pizzas. Extremely high in saturated fats and nitrates. Pizza feels safe. Cheese, sauce, a few toppings, comfort on a tray. Frozen meat pizzas take that comfort and load it with processed meats, cheap cheeses, and crusts designed for shelf life rather than taste. Pepperoni, sausage, and bacon on frozen pies usually come from processed mixes with added fillers, binders, and preservatives like sodium nitrite. Those preservatives help color and shelf life but have been linked in research to health concerns when consumed often. Start with saturated fat. Frozen pizzas, especially the meat-heavy ones, are dense in saturated fat from cheese and processed meats. For older adults, high saturated fat intake raises cholesterol and cardiovascular risk. A single large slice can push your daily saturated fat budget high enough that the rest of your meals have to be near perfect to compensate. Then there's the calorie trap. Frozen meat pizzas are calorie-dense because of the oils used in processing meats and the heavy cheese. People often eat a slice or two and call it a small meal. In practice, it's easy to eat half a large pie and take in more calories than a balanced dinner. That's a hidden problem for anyone managing weight or blood sugar. Sodium again plays a starring role. Between sauce, meats, and cheese, sodium levels climb fast. High sodium plus high saturated fat equals a risky combination for seniors. That's not to demonize pizza forever, but it is a call to be selective. Texture and processing also matter. To keep crusts from sogging, manufacturers add emulsifiers and binders. To keep pepperoni from shrinking or discoloring, they add stabilizers. That's invisible engineering for shelf stability, but it's what makes frozen pizza a processed product, not a fresh one. What's worse? Pepperoni that shrinks into nothing or a soggy center. Drop your pizza horror story and the brand if you remember it. A frozen meat pizza can look like comfort and act like a health tax on your next meal plan. Processed meats and factory cheese won't ruin one night, but repeat nights add up. Choose a smarter slice. Coming in at number 6. Frozen pot pies. A single pie can pack nearly a day's worth of sodium. You thaw a pot pie and imagine comfort, flaky crust, warm gravy, a pocket of chicken and veggies. What you end up with is a sodium bomb wrapped in heavy pastry and a texture that betrays the promise. Frozen pot pies are engineered to survive long shelf life and reheating, not to deliver balanced nutrition. That survival needs salt, stabilizers, and thickening agents that make the gravy hold up after months in a freezer. And that's where the trouble starts for older adults. Start with sodium. One pot pie can easily contain 800,200 milligrams or more of sodium, close to half or even a full day's recommended limit for many adults, and a dangerous load for anyone with high blood pressure. The gravy that makes the pie comforting is also the gravy that hides concentrated salt. For seniors or people on sodium-restricted diets, a single pie can blow a careful day of meal planning in one sitting. That's not an abstract risk. It's a measurable one that affects blood pressure, fluid balance, and medication needs. Next, think about fats and calories. The thick crust and rich gravy add saturated fat and calories fast. Pot pies are designed to feel filling, so you might skip sides and still get a caloric punch that rivals a full meal out. That's a stealth problem for anyone managing weight or blood sugar. Repeat those frozen pies a few times a week and it changes the math on your health plan. Then there's texture and reheating. These pies are dense to prevent sogging in the freezer. Microwaves and ovens heat unevenly. The crust can scorch while the center lags. That matters for two reasons. An underheated center can be unappetizing, and if any component was inadequately processed, it could be risky. More commonly, the texture becomes gluey, the vegetables turn papery, the chicken fibers become stringy, and swallowing can be harder for older adults with dental or swallowing issues. Ingredient lists reveal more compromises. Manufacturers use modified starches, carrageenan or similar thickeners, and hydrolyzed proteins to mimic mouthfeel and keep gravy stable after freezing. Those additives aren't inherently harmful in the occasional meal, but they replace real ingredients and hide the actual meat content. When you buy a pot pie for convenience, you're often buying engineered texture, not fresh cooking. Practical check. Read the label. If the pie lists protein as meat product or uses long ingredient names, that's a clue. Better choices are single-ingredient frozen entrees, or, better yet, homemade mini pot pies made with lean meat or extra veggies and a light crust. You get flavor, lower sodium, and safer reheating behavior. Ever bitten into a pot pie and found the center still cold while the crust burned? Tell us your reheating hack. Do you microwave first and oven finish, or have a trick that actually works? A single comfort pie can turn into a whole day's worth of sodium and calories, and nobody told your heart. Taking the 5th spot. Frozen breakfast sandwiches. Eggs, cheese, and sausage preserved into rubbery health bombs. You think a breakfast sandwich is an easy win? Protein in the morning, pop it in the microwave, go. Frozen breakfast sandwiches promise convenience but deliver compressed ingredients designed to survive industrial freezing and reheating. That means dense texture, concentrated sodium, and preservatives that keep the egg and meat from turning to mush. at a cost to nutrition and mouthfeel. What's inside matters. To keep a sandwich intact through production lines, manufacturers often use binders and fillers in the meat, stabilized egg products rather than real cracked eggs, and processed cheese that melts on cue. Those choices make the product shelf-stable and uniform, but they cut flavor and increase salt and additives. For seniors who need softer textures and cleaner ingredients, that rubbery egg and salty sausage is both unpleasant and unhealthy. Sodium and saturated fat are a core issue. One sandwich can contain 700 pounds to 1,000 micrograms of sodium and a hefty portion of saturated fat from sausage and cheese. Eating one daily easily exceeds recommended limits and raises risks for hypertension and heart disease. Pair that with a sugary coffee drink and you've doubled down on a poor start for the day. Preservatives and engineered egg products play another role. To mimic fresh eggs, factories use stabilized egg mixes that hold shape in freezing and thawing. Those mixes can contain added salt, stabilizers, and flavor enhancers. Over time, regular consumption adds up into a pattern that's not great for long-term health. If you love the idea of a hot sandwich, make a batch at home on Sunday. Real scrambled eggs, whole grain English muffins, lean turkey sausage, or a thick slice of tomato for moisture, then freeze individually. Reheat in an oven or toaster oven for more even heat and better texture. Or choose refrigerated fresh options from reputable delis that use real eggs and let you avoid the industrial processing loop. Which frozen breakfast sandwich committed the worst texture crime in your kitchen? Brand and offense, please. We'll roast the worst. Breakfast sandwiches sell time. If they also sell high sodium and poor texture, you're trading mornings for health headaches. Choose smart or make your own. Want to stay safe in the grocery aisles? Subscribe now so you never miss the hidden dangers in your food. Sliding in at number 4, frozen fried chicken meals, packed with oils that refry in your oven, clogging arteries. The box shows crispy golden pieces and mashed potatoes. The truth? Most frozen fried chicken is pre-fried at the plant and then frozen. That first industrial fry locks in oil and often uses cheaper seed oils. When you reheat at home, whether in an oven or air fryer, you're re-crisping oil that's already been stressed by one fry cycle. That double fry effect raises oxidized fat content and delivers a food that's effectively been fried twice. Oxidized fats are not just a flavor problem, they're a health concern. Repeated heating of oils creates compounds linked to inflammation and oxidative stress. For seniors and people monitoring cardiovascular risk, those processed fats are an avoidable extra on the plate. Even when labels list vegetable oil, the health outcome depends on how that oil was treated during manufacturing. Sodium and breading additives amplify the problem. Frozen fried chicken is brined, seasoned, battered, and pre-fried to preserve color and texture. That means extra salt and flavor enhancers. The breading often includes color stabilizers and anti-sogginess agents to preserve crunch after freezing. Consumers get a product that looks appealing but hides a concentrated dose of salt, fat, and processing chemicals. Then there's reheating and uneven heat. Many people follow package instructions and heat on a baking sheet. If the chicken pieces are thick or the oven crowded, the inside can stay cool while the crust gets overly dark. That's not usually a pathogen risk because the product was cooked before freezing, but it's a texture and digestibility problem. Dense, greasy centers are harder on digestion and feel heavy, which matters for older adults. If you must buy frozen fried chicken, look for fully cooked products with short ingredient lists and oils high in stability. Olive oil is rare in these products, but check labels. Better still, buy plain frozen chicken pieces and do your own light breading at home. You'll have control over the oil, salt, and finish. Have you tried reheating frozen fried chicken only to find the center felt like a grease pocket? Share the brand and the method you used. Were you punished for being hungry? A box of crispy can cost your arteries more than your wallet. If crunch matters, make it at home with cleaner oil and less salt. Number 3. Frozen French fries. Pre-fried, salted, and coated in chemicals to hold their color. You think fries are a harmless side? Think again. Most frozen fries are par-fried at the factory, then frozen so they crisp quickly at home. That par-fry step locks in oil, often inexpensive seed oils, and then those oils sit inside the product until you reheat. When you heat them again at home, in an oven or air fryer, you're essentially reactivating oil that's already aged and been stressed. That raises the level of oxidized fats, which taste off and hit the body harder than fresh oil. Beyond the oil, manufacturers use coatings and additives to keep fries uniform and golden after months in a freezer. Those coatings can include anti-browning agents, starches, and binding agents that improve crispness and shelf life. The trade-off is texture and transparency. A coated fry hides freezer burn and disguises low-quality potato. You pay for crunch and consistency, not potato nutrition. Sodium shows up everywhere. Pre-seasoned or restaurant-style varieties carry heavy salt to make the product tasty after being frozen. For seniors or those watching blood pressure, a full serving of fries can push sodium intake well past a safe level. Add a sauce and a second side, and that small plate becomes a medical risk rather than a treat. Then there's acrylamide, a compound that forms when starchy foods are cooked at high temperatures. Par frying and reheating boost acrylamide formation. While one portion won't break you, frequent consumption adds cumulative exposure. That's not the kind of math you want working for your health. Texture and reheating behavior matter too. Crowded ovens or air fryers can leave centers soggy while the outside turns dark. Those underheated interiors are greasy and unpleasant. Over-darkened exteriors concentrate harmful compounds. For older adults, heavy, greasy bites can feel like a lead weight after one plate. If you love fries, pick plain frozen potato products with minimal coatings. Or better yet, buy whole potatoes and cut them yourself. Toss with a light oil and a pinch of salt, then bake or air fry once. You control the oil, the salt, and the crisp. That simple switch cuts additives and gives a cleaner, fresher fry. Which frozen fry brand overpromised and underdelivered for you? Tell us the worst offender and why. Soggy inside or burnt outside? If most of the fry's weight is coating and oil, you're paying for texture, not nourishment. Runner-up at number 2. Frozen pasta dinners, cheap fillers, sky-high calories, and barely any real nutrition. Pasta dinners look comforting on the box. Steaming noodles, sauce, maybe a sprinkle of cheese. Reality often delivers a dense slab of refined carbs topped with a sauce that hides sugar, sodium, and cheap fillers. To survive freezing and reheat, manufacturers add stabilizers and thickeners. To hit low price points, they bulk sauces with textured vegetable proteins, starches, and concentrated flavorings. That keeps costs down and calories up. Start with portion and calorie density. A single frozen pasta entree can contain 400–800 calories depending on size and ingredients, and that's before you add bread, a drink, or dessert. The pasta itself is usually refined flour with limited fiber, so the meal spikes blood sugar and leaves you hungry later. For seniors managing diabetes or weight, that spike plus crash pattern is a real problem. Sauces hide sodium and sugar. Jarred and frozen pasta sauces often use salt and sugar as cheap flavor fixers. Once you add cheese and processed meatballs or sausage, sodium climbs even more. Frequent consumption of these meals makes it harder to control blood pressure and sodium intake over a week or a month. Protein and vegetables are usually minimal. Labels may list meat or meat product instead of clear cuts of lean protein. Vegetables, if present, are often small in number and overcooked to survive freezing. What looks like a balanced plate on the cardboard is usually carb-heavy with token greens and a protein that's been processed for shelf life. Reheating can be uneven, too. Dense sauce layers trap heat, so the center may stay cooler while the edges overcook. That affects texture and enjoyment, and reality matters when you're trying to make a healthy choice. A meal that leaves you unsatisfied pushes you to snack later, undoing any calorie control. Better options. Choose whole grain or legume-based frozen pastas with short ingredient lists, or make a batch of fresh whole wheat pasta with a homemade tomato sauce and freeze single portions. Add real vegetables and a measured amount of lean protein. That gives control over sodium, fiber, and calorie density. Which frozen pasta dish tricked you into thinking it was balanced but left you hungry an hour later? Brand and verdict, please. If the plate on the box looks balanced but the label reads like a chemistry test, don't be fooled. That meal is mostly filler. And taking the number 1 worst frozen food, frozen TV dinners, ultra-processed mystery meat, loaded with sodium and additives, marketed as balanced. TV dinners sell convenience and nostalgia. The reality is ultra-processed convenience. These trays cram multiple items together: protein, starch, vegetable, but each compartment is engineered to survive long storage and reheating. That engineering relies on preservatives, emulsifiers, sodium, and industry tricks that keep texture and color while masking low-quality ingredients. The hallmark problem is mystery meat. Many TV dinners list meat product, mechanically separated meat, or vague animal sources rather than named cuts. These processed proteins include binders, fillers, and flavor systems to mimic real meat. That reduces true protein value and hides sodium and phosphate content used to retain moisture. For seniors who need clear nutrition, that opacity is a major downside. Sodium and additives are piled on to deliver taste after freezing. TV dinners are designed to be flavorful straight from the oven, so they contain heavy levels of salt, flavor enhancers, and preservatives. That taste comes at the cost of blood pressure, fluid balance, and long-term dietary load. If you rely on these meals regularly, daily sodium can creep far past recommended levels. Nutritional balance is mostly an illusion. The sections make it look like a plate with all food groups, but portions and quality don't match. Vegetables tend to be overcooked, small in amount, and lacking fresh fiber. Starches are refined. Protein is processed. The result is a packaged tray that satisfies on-site but not in health value. Processing also introduces compounds formed by heating and preservation. Repeated industrial heating and long storage raise the chance of degraded fats and other byproducts that taste off and may affect long-term health markers. Again, an occasional TV dinner is not a crisis. Frequent reliance is the problem. If you must use a TV dinner for a single night, read labels carefully and choose options with named cuts of meat, low sodium, and whole food vegetable content. Better choice, prepare simple frozen meals at home, roasted chicken breast, a steamable bag of plain vegetables, and a baked potato. Freeze portions and reheat when needed. What was the worst TV dinner you actually ate end to end? Brand, year, and the one thing you'd never eat again. TV dinners sell convenience. They rarely sell good nutrition. If your freezer is full of trays, rethink the plan. Your future self will thank you. Now, what are the healthy options? Well, the first actual healthy frozen option is frozen vegetables. Flash frozen at peak freshness. Often more nutritious than fresh produce that's been shipped long distances. Flash frozen vegetables are the freezer aisle's quiet hero. At harvest, vegetables begin losing vitamins almost immediately. Flash freezing slows that slide by locking produce at peak ripeness. The result? Peas, spinach, broccoli, and mixed veg that often contain more vitamin C and comparable fiber to the fresh bag you bought that spent 5 days on a truck. Why that matters for older adults? Nutrient density and texture. Many seniors need easy-to-chew vitamin-rich foods. Frozen veg steam quickly, soften without falling apart, and retain texture in a way that helps swallowing for people with dental issues. Frozen spinach, for example, breaks down into an easy-to-eat form that still gives iron and folate. Steamable bags make prep simple. No chopping, no waste, just a quick side that actually helps the day's nutritional math. Safety and sanitation are plain advantages. Most commercial frozen vegetables are blanched before freezing. That blanch step, brief boiling or steaming, cuts surface microbes, lowers enzyme activity, and makes the vegetable safer when handled properly. For households worried about food safety, a frozen bag is less likely to be harboring unexpected bacteria than a box of fresh greens that sat unrefrigerated at some point during shipping. But not all frozen veg is equal. Watch for added sauces, butter, or seasoning mixes. Those turn a clean vegetable into a calorie and sodium source. Read labels. A 2-ingredient bag, veggies, plus nothing else, is the goal. Avoid items that list starches, salt, or artificial flavors high on the list. Brands vary in harvest and flash freeze timing. Look for ones that state flash freezing or frozen at peak ripeness. Practical pantry pairings. Add frozen veggies to omelets, soups, and stews where they heat through evenly. Mix frozen broccoli or peas into whole grain pasta with olive oil and garlic for a quicker, healthier plate. For seniors watching sodium, frozen veg lets you build meals without relying on canned soups or high-salt convenience sides. Which frozen vegetable saves your week? Peas, spinach, or a mixed veg bag? Tell us the brand and how you prepare it. A bag of plain frozen vegetables often beats the fresh option that spent a week on a truck. Treat them as a foundation, not a backup. The second recommendation is frozen berries. Packed with antioxidants and vitamins, they're a safe and healthy staple, if sourced from reliable brands. Frozen berries are a pantry superpower. Blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, and blackberries are rich in antioxidants such as anthocyanins and vitamin C. When berries are picked ripe and frozen quickly, they keep those compounds locked in. For people who want bright flavor and nutrition year-round, especially seniors who may struggle to buy and use fresh fruit before it spoils, frozen berries are an efficient route to vitamins and fiber. Why berries work so well? Convenience plus versatility. Toss a handful into oatmeal, yogurt, or a smoothie. Blend with a banana and a splash of milk for a nutrient-dense breakfast that's easy to swallow and digest. For those with dentition or swallowing concerns, heating frozen berries into a compote softens seeds and flesh while keeping antioxidants available. Safety notes you should know. Most reputable frozen berry brands freeze fruit shortly after harvest, reducing the chance for spoilage and preserving nutrients. That said, sourcing matters. Choose brands with clear country of origin labeling and basic handling claims. If someone in your household has a very weak immune system, consider briefly cooking berries before serving to reduce any low-risk contamination. For most people, refrigerated thawing and immediate use are safe and practical. Label checks and choices. Pick bags with no sugar or syrup added. Sweetened or in-syrup options add unnecessary sugar and calories. Organic can reduce pesticide exposure, but it isn't required to get the antioxidant boost. Also, look for vacuum-sealed or quick-freeze claims that show the fruit was handled fast. What's your best frozen berry hack? Smoothie, compote, or a surprise recipe? Share your go-to mix. Frozen berries are one of the few frozen items you can buy with confidence. They're flavorful, nutritious, and simple to use, as long as you pick plain fruit from trustworthy brands. Don't let your freezer fool you. One wrong pick can ruin your health. Subscribe now, and I'll show you which foods are worth keeping, and which could cost you dearly.